Okay, the purpose of activity number 3 is to create and use layers. Layers are ways that we can group things together in a quick and easy way in AutoCAD, or we can organize them either by what they are, how they're used, what their properties are. And in this case, we're going to do 2 different layers, one for the object, which is this thing, and one for the dimensions and text, which are these things. They're going to be on different layers. Okay, so let's take a look and see how we might do that. We'll start by opening our R1 file, Vision 1 file, and save it with R2 at the end. So here we go. I need to save as, and I'm going to change my R1 to an R2. And again, in industry, this is rarely done, but we want to have a record of each individual step. Okay, so there we go. I've got that done. And I'm going to create 2 new layers, 2 new ways to group things. And I do that under, here I am on my Home tab. I do that under something called Layer Properties. Layer Properties. So I can type layer, or I can go pick that icon up there. And this big box shows up. And there's tons of stuff in this dialog box. And we're going to use part of it. We're going to use a small part of it. And it says right now there's 2 layers. There's a 0 layer and something called the def points layer. The def points layer is one that does not plot. You can see it, but it does not plot. And 0 is just the default layer for AutoCAD that lots of things get done on. So I want to make a new one right above the S, kitty corner up from the name. It's very hard to see, but it's new layer. You can use the Alt-N command or just go here, new layer. And I'm going to make one called Geo for my geometry. Some people go OBJ for object. Sometimes people just use whatever name they come up with, but it's going to be the geometry layer. That's the thing. Sometimes it's called shape. It's the thing layer. And I'm going to look. I do want it to be black, white, depending on my background. My line type should be continuous. Okay. And my line weight, see if I can get out to my line weight somewhere out here. Where's my line weight? Line type. There's my line weight. It says it's on default. So I want to click on that and get it to be 0.028. That's what it says. Okay, now remember, if yours comes up with all sorts of different things, you have to right click on your line weight settings and make sure it says inches. Okay, then all these inch things come up. So there's my geo layer, and now I'll do another one called dim-text. New layer, dim-text. It says it wants to be red, so here's my color choice. If I just click that box with the color, my colors come up, and I generally am going to use these index colors because they're the easiest ones for plotters and printers to get the numbers from and stuff. It's a 25500 if you're in RGB. Okay, so I'm going to make it red. And it's also supposed to be continuous, but its line weight is supposed to be 0.014. Shouldn't be quite as heavy as the line itself. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And now you'll notice up here, those show up now. And if I'm about to draw a line, I can pick one of these ahead of time and draw on it. Or I can go and assign it. Let me show you how to do that. I'm going to go, I can either do it over in my model, but I'm going to do it right here. I'm in paper space on my layout. And so now I can touch what's on the piece of paper but I cannot touch what's below it. So I want to reverse that. I'm going to click Model. Now I can touch the model, but I don't touch my dimensions. So to put all of those on the geo layer, I'm going to highlight those, and I'm going to do it in kind of a slow, old-fashioned way so that you can see, but I'm going to find the properties of those lines. There's 21 lines there. And they're on the 0 layer right now. 0 layer. So I'm going to click it and click the arrow and put them on the geo layer. There. And I'll just hit escape a couple of times and go back and touch my model. Look, now my line weights, when I turn them on and off, if I turn my line weights off, it just shows me nice little lines. If I turn them on, they look thick. It's kind of cool. So now I'll do the same thing for my dimensions. I'm in paper space now. I'll do the dimensions. And I'll come over to my properties and I'll put them on dim text. And I'll click somewhere and just hit escape a couple, and now we can see it. Okay, so these are on one layer, and my object is on another layer. And believe me, this is just learning the tool. We'll learn how to use the tool later on when we're doing industry standard drawings, because it depends on what industry you're in, on how all of this shapes up. Okay, so I'm back in paper space. I've got everything on my dimension layer. I'm going to save this now. Save it as my R2. And that file is what gets turned in. It's very simple. Activate your model. Turn everything to the geo layer. Go back to paper space. Put your dimensions on the dim layer. Okay? I'll just let you know that alternately, if you pick an item, you can reassign it very quickly up in this box too. Okay, which is your layer report, layer box. Okay, there we go. That is how you do Activity 3, create and use